out this morning. There's nothing I love more than these. Let me run through a couple of the things that are in there. Mel, you have Travis Hunter at 4 to the Patriots. Is he a franchise-changing talent?
Franchise-changing, I think, potentially once he defines where he's going to be at his best. Green, you play him at both early on. He's a heck of a wide receiver. He's a heck of a corner. Once he defines that, and he doesn't have to expend all that energy. They got all the stamina and endurance it took to play both sides of the ball at Colorado. Once he defines that, he can be great at one of those two positions.
Ashton Genty, you have going 6 to the Raiders, the star runner out of Boise State. Is that too high for a running back?
Rating-wise, it is not. He's top 5 material on most teams, I think. When you talk about rankings board, the people I've spoken to like him high. It's a philosophy of mine. So philosophical differences, yeah, about running backs in the first round. Rating-wise, though, he deserves to be up there. And I will say this, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina is right on his heels. Omarion Hampton right now is kind of 1A at the running back position.
I agree. I know they will both go in the first half of the first round. And then we get to the really interesting piece. You have Jaxson Dart making his first appearance in your mock top 10. You have him 9 to the Saints. Give me the thinking.
Well, first of all, last year in mock 3.0, I had Bo Nix going to a team that he ended up taking, and the Denver Broncos. I got talked out of that in mock 4.0. Nobody's talking me out of this one, Greeny. Jaxson Dart locked into the Saints at 9 for me right now. Think about, hey, he went west with USC to the SEC, right? Bo Nix went SEC out west to Oregon. I think when you look at Jaxson Dart, the improvement, completion percentage up every year. Okay, interceptions down, and he maintained that at 5.6. Completion percentage up every year. Touchdowns up every year. Jaxson Dart with his legs, 1,500 rushing yards the last 3 years. Okay, 8 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago. That's the underrated part of Jaxson Dart's game. This is an NFC now, adding Jayden and Caleb, Michael Penix Jr., the division with Penix Jr., and 2 number 1s overall, Baker and Bryce Young. And now you get Jaxson Dart. You got to keep up with the division, Greeny. The Saints, you get new coach, new quarterback coming in together.
A third quarterback in the top 10. Tim Hasselbeck, have you seen much of him? What do you think?
Yeah, I like him. You know, it's interesting, the Bo Nix, comparison. Now, Bo Nix had played a lot of football. Jaxson Dart's played a good amount of football, not quite as much as Nix. And I think that's, something to always be considered throughout this evaluation process. Okay, I think physically, look, he looks, moves, throws the way you want first-round quarterbacks to do that stuff. And so I think that there will be people that fall in love with the traits. And I would just say this in terms of how high up that he is with the Saints being a top, having the top 10 pick. Look, whether it's at 9 or at 17 or 23, like if you think a guy is going to be a decade-long starter for you at the quarterback position, then I don't care where it is in the first round. It's worth it. And especially if you're the Saints who are picking all the way up there, and who knows how far you can get back before somebody sneaks in front of you, or if you can even get back at all. So I don't hate it. If you love a guy and you think that he can be that for your team, then absolutely. And I would agree with Mel in terms of the way people saw Nix, the way people, I think, looked at J.J. McCarthy in a way. I think there's going to be people that look at Jaxson Dart in a similar light.
For people who don't know much about him, he started 38 games for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. He threw 72 touchdowns, finished as the school's all-time leading passer, surpassing Eli Manning. What is it you are hearing about the possibility of this third quarterback going in the first half of the first round?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think first round is certainly possible at this point for Jaxson Dart, and these guys do move up historically as we get closer to the draft. He threw at the Combine, which not everybody does, and he impressed teams there with his willingness to do that and also the way he threw it. His traits that Mel talks about are there. Kellen Moore is the new Saints head coach. He's an offensive guy. Like, he might want to pick his quarterback. Bo Nix went to the Broncos because Sean Payton felt like this was the guy for me to run my offense. Kellen Moore feels that way about someone like Jaxson Dart, then absolutely. I don't think the Saints have taken a first-round quarterback since Archie Manning. Like, I'm dead serious. I think that's the only time they did it. So Jaxson Dart would be a departure for them, but they are going to need somebody once they move on from Derek Carr.
Mel, I'm getting notes here from our buddy Dan Orlovsky, who was watching, saying, and correctly pointing out, and he said it on this show, that he has been saying Dart in the top 10 for a while now, and that, in fact, he thinks that Dart could creep up towards the territory of QB2. And so I wanted to get your take on that, Mel, about the possibility that by the time we get 5-6 weeks from now, people could be talking about a debate between Dart and Sanders, who's going to be the second quarterback off the board.
Not out of the question. I'm not going to ever laugh at anything that's being said now because everybody's got all opinions all over the place. I will say this. Last year with Bo Nix, when I had him at 3.0, I got calls after that. People say, yeah, you got him too high. He's not a first-round guy. He's borderline. He's more of a second-round guy on our board. And I got talked out of it. Jaxson Dart, to me, when you look at where we are right now with the league and with the quarterbacks, and you got to keep up with your division, and Jaxson Dart's got talent. We're not forcing him up there. He's 18 on that big board right now. You look at the progression, 62%, 65%, 69% this past year, 20, 23, 29. Progression in terms of touchdowns. That's at 8 rushing touchdowns 2 years ago, 1,500 rushing yards the last 3 years. That's the underrated part of this kid's game. He's tough. He's fast, he's athletic, he's aggressive, and he will attack a defense, and he will kill you on third down, man coverage. He can go for 20, 30 yards. So for Jaxson Dart, if Kellen Moore feels the way Payton did about Nix, like Tim said, you can mark it down. If he doesn't, then he drops a little bit. And I will say this about Shedeur. If he slides, I did a little research. 8 sliding quarterbacks since 1970 based on my ratings and mock dress. 6 of the 8 big-time hits. 2 busts were both Notre Dame guys, Clausen and Brady Quinn. Outside that, 6 of 8 hit big. So if Shedeur does slide a little bit in the first or into the late early second, like some think, so be it. But still would bode well for Shedeur Sanders.
You can end up with a better team,
right?
If you slide down the first round. By definition,
it's a lot more about where you wind up than what number you get. You and I, because again, we do the podcast, we talk about this all the time. I feel like there is a suspicion. You've got him going 3. I feel like there are some people who believe we could see Shedeur slide a little bit. What is you talk to people in the NFL every day. What is your sense of that?
They're all over the place on Shedeur Sanders. I mean, your head's spinning after you talk to people. Some love him. Some say, no, if his name was Shedeur Jones, it'd be a third-round pick. But guess what? I heard that about Peyton Manning, too. And I brought that up to you, Greeny, a lot. I heard a lot about Peyton Manning after his pro day when he had wobbly balls and not having the arm strength and all that. And again, I talked to Peyton. Peyton was in his house saying, no, I heard all that stuff. I don't have any upside. I don't have this. Don't have any of that. Okay, Bill Polian took him number 1, and you saw what happened. Ryan Leaf, 50% of the league like Ryan Leaf over Peyton Manning because he had better physical ability. So again, I get it. He doesn't have the explosive arm, explosive legs. But hey, when you look at Peyton Manning, did the late, great Johnny Unitas have that? Did Tom Brady have that? No, they didn't. You don't need all that to win in the National Football League at the quarterback position.
Super quickly, what is the sense you get just from talking to people about a range here for a guy like Shedeur Sanders?
You could find people at the combine and sense that would tell you that, yeah, I think he's going to slip. But there's also, I think, a solid chance he doesn't get past 2. Like, Cleveland needs a quarterback. Right. And I don't think that they dislike him. So, yeah, I think we thought C.J. Stroud might slip 2 years ago, and he went 2. So it only takes one team to fall in love.
Okay, we'll see. That's one.
Chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn tô tư ẩm tượng. Hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là màu đỏ. Các bạn hôm nay tượng của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là màu vàng. Bây giờ mình sẽ bắt đầu làm nhé.